Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to all you in the pews here and everyone joining us online today. We're always glad to see you. I'm Reverend Karen LeBlanc, and I minister to this congregation as we minister to each other. We are people creating beloved community. We believe in practicing and promoting the Unitarian Universalist values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity in our congregation, and that those values always spring from the love at the center that guides us all. We are people of purpose in church, in this church. We work to make sure everyone feels welcome in this meeting house. So if what you hear today resonates with you, we hope you'll consider becoming part of this way cool community of seekers and keepers of this very long dream that is our church. First Unitarian in New Bedford recognizes that the land that we inhabit and enjoy sits on the unceded ancestral land of the Wampanoag. We give respect to the people of the First Light and their ancestors, and we honor them in this church. A couple quick housekeeping things. There is after church, of course, there's coffee hour. Anyone who is interested in being on the committee to help set up the Beltane celebration, Maypole dance, week after next, please see me directly after. Grab your coffee and come sit down at my table, and we'll bang a few things out that we need to do. We are live streaming, as always. Next week is our poetry service, so please come to that. That's always a really cool thing. Rick Finneran will be hosting that again. And on Friday, the memorial service for Larry Jakewith will be here at 2 o'clock, so you are welcome to come for that. If you will turn your phones off, put them into worship mode, we will begin by lighting our chalice. Who's gonna light the chalice? Do you want to try? You want to come? And Alex, you want to come? You want to show this new young lady what to do? All right. So watch. We light a candle at the beginning. She's a new little kid, so we're trying to break her in. The words for the chalice lighting are from Reverend Scott Tayler. We light this flame in a world where so much has grown dark. May it remind us that sparks can always be struck, and very little is inevitable. Most of it is mystery and magnificent surprise, which means new and yet to be imagined worlds always await, which means a door has already swung wide open, with the possibility waiting on the threshold to pull us through. Our opening words are from Reverend Gretchen Haley, A New Space for Possibility. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails, as if the new zodiac capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way, as if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we'd thought, as if we were not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it already all figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none. here in our song and our silence, our stories and our sharing. We make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage, forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith. That we believe still a new world is possible, that we are creating it already, here and now. Come, let us worship together. And if you will rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able, and sing with me, hymn number 187, 187. It sounds along the ages, soul answering to soul. It kindles on the pages of every Bible scroll. The psalmist heard and sang it, from martyrs' lips it broke. And prophet tongues outrang it, till sleeping nations woke. From Sinai's cliffs it echoed, it breathed from Buddha's tree. It charmed in Athens' market, it hallowed Galilee. The hammer stroke of Luther, the pilgrim seaside prayer, the oracles of Concord, one holy word declare. It calls and lo, new justice, it speaks and lo, new truth. In ever nobler stature and unexhausted youth, forever on resounding and knowing not of time. Our laws but catch the music of its eternal chime. Please take the time to greet one another, you beautiful people. Everybody's so friendly. Now, if you'll remain standing for a moment, we will recite our covenant together, which is printed in your order of service. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. You may be seated. So, we don't have a story for in-service today for the kids, but Sam is going to tell you guys a story upstairs. So, you kids ready to go? Be kind and true. May love be a guide in all I do. May kindness sing within my heart, and may peace be with us while we're apart.
Oh my gosh, Glennie, look at you walking. Wow,
She's motoring. Now is when the trouble starts with those two. Now is a time in our service where we share with each other our joys and our concerns. If you have something you would like to share, please come on up, tell us your name, and tell us what you would like to share. And I want to start with lighting a candle for Aurora Chase, whose memorial service was yesterday, and who on Tuesday would have been a member of this church for 80 years. 80 years as a member of this church. And her signature's in there if you want to see it later. She was 104 when she died, so that's how that happened. Anybody else? All right, Deb. And then another Deb.
Hi, I don't know. What do we do? Okay, I'm Deb Crockett-Rice. I'm very concerned actually about my sister-in-law. She's at Beth Israel with acute myeloid leukemia. It's been a very long road, which I think we're at the end of, so I'd like to light a candle for her. And a moment of joy would be that I'm planning a big dance party in the spring, and everyone's invited, but I'll let you know about that later.
Go on, Deb.
Good morning, my name is Deb, and my happy joy of this morning is I turned to my right and saw my sister, Rebecca.
Hello everyone, I'm Sri Lakshmi. Yesterday, me and Kwong, we went to daffodil fields in Dartmouth. They are so beautiful. If you get a chance, please visit. It's an amazing place.
I'm Eric Kilburn,
I'm Kate Crosby.
and we are grandparents as of Tuesday night. Jackson LaCourdier Kilburn and lives near Boulder, Colorado. We'll be going to see them next week. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Mom and Babe are both well. He came 3.5 weeks early, so they just managed to get married. And then quick had a baby, so it's really wonderful. We're really happy. And we're also looking forward to signing the book later today with Karen for joining the congregation.
I lit 2 final candles, as is our practice here, one for all the joys and sorrows we keep in our hearts, and one for all those folks out there that are looking for a place like this that they can share in and haven't found one yet. So let me give you a quick little word about Charles Ives, who is the composer that Randy's using today. So he was born in 1874 and an American modernist composer. He was one of the earliest renowned American composers to achieve recognition on a global scale. He was one of the first composers to engage in a systematic program of experimental music with musical techniques including polytonality, polyrhythm, tone clusters, aleatory elements, you'll have to explain that to me later, and quarter tones. So he's often regarded as the leading American composer of art music of the 20th century. Just a little FYI there. So our responsive reading, which is printed in your order of service here, in 1834, Emerson went to live with his step-grandfather, Ezra Ripley, in Concord, less than 100 paces from the spot where the Battle of Lexington and Concord took place. So this Concord hymn was written at the request of the Battle Monument Committee, and at Concord's Independence Day celebration on July 4th, 1837, it was first read and then sung as a hymn by a local choir, using the very familiar tune, The Old Hundredth, just as an aside. So I'll read the plain type if you answer with the bold. By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled, the foe long since in silence slept. Alike the conqueror silent sleeps. On this green bank by this soft stream, we set today a votive stone. Spirit that made those heroes dare to die and leave their children free. And of course, you can still see that monument in Concord. Let us enter now in the spirit of prayer and meditation. And I saw this piece from John O'Donohue, one of my favorite writers of all time, in our resources, and I was like, that doesn't really feel like it fits. For a New Beginning is what it's called. But then I read it in terms of thinking of it like our country instead of ourselves, and it made a whole lot more sense to me. So, in out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness grow inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled, and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that waits around you. Amen, and so may it be. Second reading is from Thomas Paine. From a small spark kindled in America, a flame has risen, not to be extinguished. Without consuming, it winds its progress from nation to nation and conquers by a silent operation. Man finds himself changed and discerns that the strength and powers of despotism consist wholly in the fear of resisting it, and that in order to be free, it is sufficient that he wills it. Please rise again in body or spirit as you are willing and able, and sing with me. Number 114, 114, Forward Through the Ages.
wider grows the vision, realm of love and light. For it we must labor till our faith is sight. Prophets have proclaimed it, martyrs testified, poets sung its glory, heroes for it died. Forward through the ages in unbroken line moves the faithful Spirit at the call divine. Not alone we conquer, not alone we fall. In each loss or triumph, lose or triumph all. Bound by God's far purpose, in one living hope, move we on together to the shining goal. Forward through the ages in unbroken line, move the faithful Spirit at the call divine.
Please be seated. And now is the time in our service where we ask you for your kind donations toward the many good works of this church. We sure do appreciate your generosity. Okay. That's art music. I think he hung around with some klezmer bands. I don't know. Happy Patriots Day, my friends. This is a holiday particular to Massachusetts and Maine, barring a difference in apostrophes. You go look it up. But it fits right into our theme this month of embracing possibility, because that's exactly how this country managed to fight and win a revolution against what was at the time one of the most powerful empires in the world. So in case you ain't from around here, you might wonder why Patriots Day is such a big deal. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. If you're from the area, you have probably heard the story many times. But how many of you knew that it was our friend over there, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who coined that phrase, the shot heard round the world? I didn't know that. Patriots Day celebrates the first shot of the Revolutionary War, the battles at Lexington and Concord. And though those early fights were fairly small scale in the grand scheme of things for the War for Independence, the ramifications were seismic. And I'm going to tell you the story, which of course deserves so much more of a deeper dive and an understanding of what comes before and after, but I'm going to try to keep it concise to Patriots Day. So the story goes like this. After years of measures being taken by Great Britain to raise revenue from the colonies, like the Sugar Act and the Stamp Act, the people of the colonies became really resentful and got rowdy and resistant. After the Boston Massacre in 1770 and then the Boston Tea Party in 73, King George had had about enough of us, and he ramped up the military presence in Boston. In June of 1774, he shut down Boston Harbor until the colonists paid for all that tea they had dumped. And soon after that, the British Parliament declared Massachusetts in open rebellion. On April 18th, 1775, Dr. Joseph Warren, a physician and member of the Sons of Liberty, learned from a source inside the British High Command that the Redcoats would be marching that night on Concord. So Warren dispatched two couriers, the silversmith, Paul Revere, and the tanner, William Dawes, who's no one's ever heard of because his name doesn't rhyme well, to alert residents of the news, of course. So they met up in Lexington, where Sam Adams and John Hancock were holed up. That's my boy over there. And they convinced Adams and Hancock to flee as soon as they could. So they went back on the road, and on the road they met another rider who was Samuel Prescott. And I would not be surprised if Samuel Prescott was related to the family that donated this mosaic of ours, the Prescott family. So he's actually the only one that made it all the way to Concord. Paul Revere didn't. He got arrested. Dawes fell off his horse, broke his leg. And at dawn on April 19th, some 700 British troops arrived in Lexington and came upon 77 militiamen gathered on the town green. They heavily outnumbered the militiamen, of course, and had just been ordered by their commander to disperse the crowd when a shot rang out. And to this day, no one knows which side shot first. Several British volleys were subsequently unleashed before order could be restored. And when the smoke cleared, 8 militiamen had died and 9 were wounded, while only 1 redcoat was injured. The British then continued to Concord to search for arms, which had already been relocated, because remember, they knew they were coming. And they decided to basically burn everything. They burned everything, and the fire got out of control. So way up on a hill, there were hundreds of militiamen occupying that high ground, and they incorrectly thought that the whole town was being torched and pillaged. Well, and it sort of was. But they hustled down to Concord, and at the North Bridge was being defended by a pretty small contingent of British soldiers. And the British fired a volley at them, not quite realizing how many militiamen there now were. And when they fired their volley back, they went, "Oh, okay," and turned around and ran. That was the shot heard round the world. And not because it was a huge battle, but because it changed the feeling of revolution. The relatively low casualties of the battles of Lexington and Concord proved that they could stand up to one of the most powerful armies in the world. And news of the battle spread quickly, reaching London on May 28th. And a few months later, the British narrowly defeated the Americans at the Battle of Bunker Hill on June 17th, 1775. You know that's why we have the 617 area code in Boston, 617 for June 17th. Yes. I love teaching you stuff. So the low number of casualties once again showed the strength of these Patriot forces. And by the following summer, a full-scale war of independence had broken out, paving the way for the creation of these here United States of America. So yeah, we're pretty proud of our Massachusetts moxie, because 251 years ago today, we started a revolution that would inspire and set the tone for other patriots to fight for independence. And 250 years later, here we are. We're still here. For now. It was a near impossible battle. And not just because we were fighting this enormously powerful British army, but because there were still a lot of folks who were loyal to the crown or who were afraid of separation from that old system, whose money and land were still tied up with England, whose family and friends still lived there. There's nothing about this country's inception is cut and dry. Nothing about the whole story of our country is cut and dry. The great historian David McCullough, in his book, The American Spirit, Who We Are and What We Stand For, he said, had they taken a poll in Philadelphia in 1776, they would have scrapped the whole idea of independence. A third of the country was for it, a third of the country was against it, and the remaining third, in the old human way, was waiting to see who came out on top. So yes, there were Loyalists and there were Patriots. There's also a lot of folk who are waiting to see which way the wind blew. And then there were the slaves, the part of the story we either whitewash or don't mention at all. So during the American Revolution, the British very smartly offered emancipation to any enslaved person who fought on their side. This military tactic, of course, infuriated the Patriots and caused pandemonium in the South and plantations as thousands of slaves just escaped and fled across battle lines. And they made great spies for both sides because it was easy to gain access to information if the people who were scheming barely noticed you were in the room, and if they did, they didn't think you had the intellect or cunning to do anything about it. Tad Stormer, who is a professor and author of A Resistance History of the United States, due out June 2nd, he does a deep dive into Revolutionary War and picks apart our fluffier notions of how and why this country was founded. And he talks a lot about, he has a whole chapter on the Black Loyalists. It's fascinating. So he asks us to consider, to whom did the revolution and freedom really matter most? What was America offering blacks if the freedom we wanted for ourselves didn't include them? What promises of freedom actually paid off for them? Now, Ted lays out a few facts, and it changes our perception of events a little bit. So sure, there were blacks who fought with the Patriots and chose their promises of this abstract freedom someday, but only a handful, a couple thousand, were ever actually liberated. But do you know how many slaves actually regained the right to liberty by the Loyalists that had been denied to them by the Patriots? The estimate is about 100,000 enslaved people. Now, it might not have been an easy freedom, but it was freedom. So about 5% of the entire colonial population, which was about 2.5 million at the time, were white loyalists, and they decided they wanted nothing to do with patriots and revolution and all this craziness. So they took what they could carry and they left. 95% of those loyalists who were enslavers divested themselves of the ownership of other people. And in the vast majority of those cases, it resulted in the freedom of those they had enslaved. Lots of them, black and white loyalists, went to Canada. That's how we got Canada. And the Bahamas. So one way to think who got the quickest return on the American Revolution is those 100,000 black folk who finally found their freedom. This is a reminder of how history, past and current, is about perception. Who gets to tell the story, right? If the story can even be told. When Jefferson was asked, who will be able to tell the story of the American Revolution? His answer was simple: nobody. Because no one will ever know the whole story. A different revolution happened in each of the 13 colonies for different reasons. Most of what became our foundational documents were created by a fairly small group of rich white men who had their own designs on this very large and beautiful country and ensured that guys like them would always get the biggest slices of the pie. That's not speculation, it's still playing out 250 years later. So by the 1830s, the revolution was beginning to be heavily romanticized by smart and wordsy guys like Ralph Waldo Emerson, with his dramatic Shot Heard Round the World that we read earlier. And if you're from around here, you surely had to learn Paul Revere's Ride by Longfellow at some point in grammar school. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. Authors and poets of the time knew that to keep this experiment going, we needed this patriotism to continue. And it was more about how people felt, about the possibilities for the future, and not the bloody and mangled history of radicals and revolution and independence. And after World War II, there was a huge resurgence of patriotism in this country, of course, and it built this even thicker mist over the actual history, making these founding fathers of ours into these heroes who fought for our freedom against a tyrant king and were all wise and all-knowing. And that's okay. We should love our country and be proud of the men and women who fought and died for our independence, because it was a truly remarkable feat. Now, progress has been slow, sometimes going backward, But there is no denying that this is the land of possibility. The American Revolution taught us anything, it's that when the people, who always outnumber the government, BT dubs, when the people get angry enough and work together to make their voices heard and their vision real, nothing is impossible. So now it's up to us, people. We, the people, to work together from all sides for a righteous cause. And we have to do it not for love of country, but for the love and the liberation of all her people, all of them. I believe that future is possible. I will leave you with the words of Dr. Joseph Warren, that son of liberty in whose home this story began and whose wisdom is as timely today as it was then. He said, "Our country is in danger, but do not be despaired, which we should not be despaired of. Our enemies are numerous and powerful, but we have many friends determined to be free, and heaven and earth will aid the resolution. On you depend the fortunes of America. You are to decide the important question on which rest the happiness and liberty of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourselves. Act worthy of yourselves." May it be so, church. May it be so. Amen. Amen. Thank you. I love it when I get a good amen. Now, join me. Teal hymnal. Our last hymn is in the Teal hymnal 1028 1028. The Fire of Commitment.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living brings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our minds and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance that the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous toil. and our future can begin.
Please be seated. Closing words here from Dr. Joseph Warren. Stain not the glory of your worthy ancestors, but like them resolve never to part with your birthright. Be wise in your deliberations and determined in your exertions for the preservations of your liberties. Follow not the dictates of passion, but enlist yourselves under the sacred banner of reason. Use every method in your power to secure your rights. I think Dr. Warren was a Unitarian. Hold fast, my church. We love you. Stay strong. Live long and prosper. Go in peace. We'll see you at coffee hour.